A few years ago, when I was knocking around with a certain Mr. Nobody, whenever we went into the woods, or anywhere really, in the natural world, I was always captivated and had to look, stare, absorb, contemplate, discuss, pick, forage, taste, all this different sort of stuff. And Mr. Nobody said to me, he said, "You've been captured by the Green Man." I said, "Captivated? Not captured. Captivated." The Green Man's spirit is deeply within me, of course. That's why I produced him in my home, on my door, and I have effigies of him. My whole home is a semblance of recognition, participation, love and adoration of the Green Man, Pan, the god of nature. You see, lots of people think that the devil has been made manifest out of the iconography of Pan with the horns. But lots of you wouldn't know that in lots of statues and artistic depictions of Moses, he was depicted with horns, people. Little ones. So, I'm here being a weirdo of the woods again. And I was drawn to defecating in the woods, which I often am. You see, of a morning time I will often defecate about 3 times. And so if I'm out of a morning time, then I'm going to want to defecate. And if in the woods, then it's most convenient. But there's something very, of course, primal about defecating in the woods and wiping yourself on leaves and things like that, because our ancestors did it for hundreds of thousands of years, and so it is going back to our primal state. Now, in this wood here, I came upon this tree, and this tree is a sycamore, and it's got a lot of moss on it around the trunk, but I was mesmerised, and I stood staring for 15 minutes at the patterns in the bark, because they're very, very distinct. And as I looked at these patterns, they started to go like when you're on mushrooms. They start to shift and breathe and pulsate. Yeah. So we don't need mushrooms to do that. We just need a calm, still state of mind, an observant state of mind, and the propensity to just stare and absorb. And when you do that, the whole world opens up, and there is an aura of pixies and elves and all those sort of mythological creatures. And I've seen them very, very profoundly on some occasions, walking in bizarre woods. You know, the more bizarre the wood is, the more enchanted it is. I was in Tenerife on one occasion. I was walking in this wood absolutely alone, and it was getting towards dusk, and it had a very eeriness about it. And there were many of these beard trees, where these trees dangle long yellow type beards. They're absolutely fascinating, and I never had a beard at the time, and I just got some of this stuff and put it around and fooled around with it. But then I was seeing faces and effigies and feeling the presence of the spirits of the woods. And everywhere I looked, in a tree stump, on a tree noggin, or anywhere, even in rocks, I saw faces which on DMT would be living entities. And I don't doubt that they are. And I didn't doubt that they were living conscious entities when I was looking at them without being on any substance. On one occasion when I was on mushrooms, I was looking down at some paving stones and I saw faces in the paving stones, absolutely distinct, just kind of like profiles like that of human beings with no expression. They're always a-emotional. All the creatures you see in DMT, the ones I see in DMT, are absolutely a-emotional. They're never looking at you, they've never got sinister faces, anything like that. They're not joyous, they're just looking out into emptiness. But you get the distinct feeling that they are conscious. And I once heard Duncan Trussell speaking to Russell Brand, talking about his DMT experiences, and he was seeing a very similar thing. And he says, I can't help thinking that, they live in some sort of flat world and they are real sentient beings in that realm. And I'm like, well, they most certainly give you that impression. And why dismiss it as nonsense? Doesn't do anything justice, doesn't help us in any shape or form if we do that. Now, this tree here, let me show you. Let me acquaint you with this. So, as I stood here and I look at this bit, and it changes there, and this bit for that duration. But as I glanced from that to that to that, then it's doing it now. It is shimmering, it's shaking. The whole thing is shaking. And it's very much like, well, it's very DMT, and it's kind of like an apparition, the vibratory state of it, and it's saying that we're not really here. We're not really here. We are just a vibratory manifestation created by consciousness. And so this particular bit of this bark is very beautiful, very intriguing just to keep looking at it with the different contours and the distinctness of the flat islands within the deep rustic caverns. And then when we look over onto this side here, we see a whole array of what we could consider to be stars or crucifixes. This is a typical depiction of the star which hung over Bethlehem. It was always depicted in that four-pronged shape like a crucifix. And so we have to know that there's something related to that star over the newly born Jesus and the death of Jesus, because the exact same symbolism was there, people. Well, have you heard that before? Have you ever heard that? Only on the awake and brave, people. This is what I'm saying. My mind is in a different dimension. And it's not so deeply rooted and incomprehensible for most, like Jordan Peterson's, because he just makes too many inferences which most people just wouldn't see. But I don't doubt that all of you could see the inferences what I'm inferring here in relation to the star that we've seen depicted 1 billion times on Christmas cards, the one that hangs directly over the manger. And then that same symbolic shape where Jesus spent his last hours. So, of course, symbols are very, very powerful. This is why Jordan Peterson is very much immersed in them, because he is a Jungian psychologist. And, I'm very much a Jungian psychologist also, into symbolism and alchemy and all this, because symbols are extremely important in human consciousness. And there's many, many things that Peterson says, are very, very useful and correct to the right mind. But what I'm saying is, he's no longer drawing a distinction between the time and place for him to go off on one. He just goes off on one everywhere, and every time anybody asks him a question about anything, he always brings it back to Cain and Abel. or the story of Jonah. He's absolutely possessed. He is possessed. And he can no longer separate the normal everyday people who are just not into that stuff. And you know, one of his frustrations is he was speaking to Richard Dawkins, and the compare, I suppose you could say, was oh goodness me, why do I always forget his name when I'm thinking about him? Cosmic. He's got his own channels. He's an atheist. Oh, for goodness sakes. Anyway, Peterson's had a lot of conversations with him, so has Dawkins, so has Harris. He's very prolific, and I've mentioned to you that he's very, very intellectual, exceedingly bright, and yeah, I mean, these people, they can speak amongst themselves in the right time and the right place. But Peterson just goes off on whoever he's talking to. He could just be engaged in any conversation, and within 30 seconds, he'll bring it back to his obsession. But the things I say, they're very feasible, rational and logical, and I'm sure most of you have applied your minds. You could follow the lineage of what I say, and then, you know, I speak about references to people and things and certain books and this, that and the other, which are not too esoteric, and so, you know, I endeavour not to lose people in a realm of my own masturbatory, convoluted, self-ejaculatory musings. I don't want to do that, and of course I akin sexual connotations to these things because they're what is the height of self-indulgence is masturbation and self-love, and so Peterson appears to have a great self-love of his own knowledge and wisdom, and at some level it's a sexual thing, and those of you that don't understand this sort of thing, then you need to read more of Sigmund Freud and Jung and people like that who will equate most everything we do to libidinal sexual energy, which is the driving force of the human being. It manifests in every single thing we do, almost. It manifests in art, it manifests in music, it manifests in sport, in theatre, everything, people. And as I'm speaking now about the woods for me are very sexual. And one time when I was on 4.5 grams of shrooms, the woods were calling me into their mist, and I was compelled to go in, spend time with them, but I knew they were extracting my libidinal energy. That's what they wanted to do, and again I write the full story in my book. And when I take DMT, the DMT, as soon as you start to inhale, it gives you a massive burst of ecstasy, and then when you are in the experience, you can do a very sexual thing. You know, of course, people licking their lips during sexual pleasure is a thing. Well, DMT gets you doing that, and it tells you that it's absolutely delicious. DMT is absolutely delicious, and the love that it offers you is so overwhelming, but it's a delicious love. It's a sexual love, and you smack your lips and you feel this all-over ecstasy, which is far in excess of any orgasm you could possibly have. And so DMT most certainly appeals to the libido. And, you know, for those of you that haven't taken it, and I'm pretty sure you would never listen to anybody articulating this, because there's not that many people who, to be quite frank, people articulate at the level that I do. It's a visceral level, it's a deeply emotional connection to Gaia, and I'm speaking very, very deep from Gaia's spirit, That's what's coming out. That's what I'm feeling. That's what every cell in my body is telling me. That's why I'm here, weirdo of the woods, standing in the woods, staring at the bark and feeling a certain ecstasy. Look again. This for me is absolutely stunning beauty. And when we see these gentle, soft green beards covering certain parts of it, and when you feel them, I'm always feeling it because I'm a very tactile person, and they feel like the most beautiful of furs on an animal. It really is gorgeous and absolutely soft and full of life and vibrant, wonderful, wonderful beyond measure, people. Moss is. And so when I touch these creatures, I know I'm touching living conscious entities. And I know the conscious because I've been spoken to them too many times to deny that. And albeit they don't speak to me, like they do when I'm on mushrooms or DMT, in that way they communicate through a variety of energy, a spirit. They communicate through their spirit, and that's why I'm here. I'm standing next to the tree. I'm hugging the trees, and very often I kiss the trees. And if this tree was a male, some people may think that that would be a little bit homosexual, but this is a female, and so it's very pleasant to be acquainted with you, and I don't need to kiss you over there because you are part and parcel of the same thing. And when you are on mushrooms and you're out in the woods, all the trees want hugging, and yeah, of course it's not possible, and so I hug half a dozen and say, listen guys, consider this to be hugging you all, because it's not possible to come around and hug you all, but you know, if you express love to the woods, the forest and the trees, then they greatly appreciate it, and they bid you good day, and they call you and entice you, and they want to be with you, they want to feel your energy. It really is quite an experience, to be fair, people. And so I'm here. Now on a windy day, you'd hear the creaking, you'd hear the gentle sway of all the fibres expanding and contracting within the wood. And so to come and be weirdo of the woods on a regular basis is very important to my soul, my spirit, because this is where I know my ancestral spirit belongs, because throughout time it has spent vastly more time in these regions than it has in these modern regions, where we are detached from our soul and spirit, people. But those of us who are lucky enough to have a relationship, and you will have vastly a greater relationship when you have taken these entheogens, because that's what they do. They take you back to your roots, they take you back to your ancestry, and it's a beautiful, nurturing and connecting thing. And this is why, for those who aren't afraid of the woods, you just feel so comfortable. And invariably I often feel like just lying down and going to sleep in the woods. And here's the thing. It is said in folklore, people, that anybody that went to sleep underneath a tree around midday would have visitations from elves and gnomes and that sort of thing. And this is why all of these child book depictions depict this sort of thing, because it really is a thing. And what I considered to be a reality in relation to these things is that they could have been dreaming them. They could have left their bodies, because lots of people leave their bodies around about that sort of time. Dreaming, entering into the astral plane, or maybe even, because when we do sleep, we go down into the theta realm of a level of hypnosis. It's the deep meditation, the 432 hertz, theta realm. Just below that is the delta realm, which is full-blown sleep, where our mind is supposedly unconscious, but it isn't unconscious. It's just a metaphor. But when we are fluctuating between this theta realm of absolute stillness of mind, when our egoic consciousness is turned off, then we may enter into that spirit realm, whereby we would in fact get visitations from those creatures, be in an apparition form, or dream form, or an out-of-body form. But certainly, because of the proliferation of this sort of stuff, there absolutely is a root of truth to it all, people. So, I have had my fix of a couple or 3 hours. I have now worked up a sufficient appetite. You see, the beautiful thing about being in the wood is that you just listen and watch as the leaves fall constantly, and it's such a beautiful thing. It really is a beautiful thing. And when there is a frost, at the first frost, you go out into the woods and many trees are just dropping. It's raining leaves. And on one occasion I went to my favourite national park, the Emerald Heaven, which I call it, where these 500-year-old oaks are, and it was a frosty night, and it was 0 degrees or something like that, and all of these oaks with their golden leaves, they were just teeming down and blanketing the floor from white into gold, and it was just a mismatch of white and gold, and raining down these flickering golden embers. It was absolutely mesmerising, and I only ever saw it like that once in my life. And it was an absolutely incredible thing. There's so many things that are incredible about this world, people. And then after a frost in the autumn, we can go and we can pick up leaves, and every single one of these leaves has had Jack Frost dance across it. And then when you look in the light, you can see 1 trillion ice crystals, and all jagged and sharp and glistening and like diamonds. And then when you hold them up to the sun, within 20 seconds or so, you'll see the heat just melts them away, and it just sends Jack Frost on his way. Wow. Anyway, just look into the distance, people. Let's go a little bit closer, shall we? It's a shame again about the noise of the traffic, but this is just how it is. Now, if I just stood here for a while. It's the most exquisite and beautiful thing to watch leaves fall. They've gone shy now, but if I help them along a little bit, I'm gently pushing this tree. Oh, a twig fell. Beautiful, hey? Let's do it one more time. Has it so much fun? They're all dropping in the other direction. Here. Wow. Stunning, huh? And so it doesn't have the effect when it's caused by agitation, but just with a gentle breeze when they're absolutely ready on their own, like they are here. That's when you see the magic. As they're dancing and flying like butterflies. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I've had an absolute wonderful time today. And I think I've made some very touching, beautiful and heartfelt videos, which, if any of you have got this far in this video, having felt like you were upset with previous videos of mine, you have to remember that this is your journey. It's not about me. It's about you and how you are feeling and how you express yourselves and how you feel compromised or, all different sorts of emotions when you listen to what people say or watch things. It's your journey, people. And so you can see now that I offer you the full spectrum of polarity. I offer you the option of you feeling some negative thoughts within yourselves, and I also offer you the option of discovering some beautiful thoughts and feelings in yourselves. And so, don't be shooting the messenger, guys. Just embrace life.